You're welcome back to my channel. This is my story unfiltered, and my name is Sheila Atayere. And as usual, we have a guest today with us. I call him Doctor of Books. You'll find out why. Yes, some other doctors are medical doctors and veterinary and the rest, but he's a doctor of books, and I'm very glad and very happy to have him here. I know that his story will inspire someone, will change someone, and maybe you will be able to focus on your goals and maybe pursue that dream with more passion and resilience. So you are welcome, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila.
I'm very, very happy and excited to have you. I don't really know so much about your story, but I know that God always has a plan. He doesn't bring us just randomly.
True.
He watches our steps, and he always knows what this story today might do in someone's life.
True.
Yes. So if we could just dive in, you could kindly tell us about your background. I mean, where you grew up, how you went to school, just briefly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sheila.
You're welcome.
Wow. It's it's a pleasure really being here. And thank you for the great work that you're doing for the kingdom of God. So like she said, my name is Wilson Tumuhimbise. I am I'm a Munyankore. I come from Shema district.
Okay.
I was born, I'm 32 years old.
Really? Already?
Yes.
Okay.
Very old.
Very old.
So I come from a village. Well, my home where I grew up from, Chengando, Chigaramashema. Yes. My background, I am the last born of of three. So my mother is called Edith Businje, and my father passed on, but he was called Nshangechi Evan. He was a man of God.
Amen.
Yes. So I growing up, I grew up with most times really I grew up with my mother, and we grew up, of course. So by the time I grew up, I have two siblings, that is Mase Natwera and also Christine Aibazibwe, but they are my half sisters from my mother. So we share a mother. So I grew up. So we had, in between me and Christine, there was a boy called Bright Johnson, but he died when he was young. So was ideally was supposed to be four, but one went. So growing up, I found myself, well, I had my mother was telling me how. So my father was a lay reader. So
I know. Surely doesn't die.
He was a lay reader, and my mother, of course, Yes. So the story is that, of course, later they had some issues in marriage, and they separated.
Oh dear.
Of course, it was unfortunate that my father, so kuzakura, we didn't have a home. For us, because he had, because and Ababurizi, they grow up they stay at the church. So we didn't have like a home. So now when they separated, so my father went to Uganda. His mother akaba shwirwe Buganda. So he went to Buganda. That is Luwero. So we overcome Buganda. Still it is Buganda. So he went to Luwero. So that's where he stayed. He had his other siblings. So now my mother had to stay with us, because so she didn't have a home, because now.
But at this point, it is you and Bright.
Yes, it is. We are four actually.
Because you said the other ones, you share a mom.
Yes, but they grew up with mom.
Okay, they were older than you.
Yes,
you said you're the last
yes.
born. Okay, I'm catching up.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So Bright. So now by the time they separated,
you're 3.
By the time they were 3, but my mom was pregnant. Me, I was
Wow.
So I was in.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah. So I just had stories my mother was telling me. Yeah. So the reasons were like, I think I was not his. That was
the reason.
Yeah. So that was the reason. But of course, I look like him.
I know.
It would have been worse if I was. Yeah. Yeah. So later, we just, of course. So, but that was one of the reasons. Yeah. But of course, and also poverty. Yeah. So now we grew up with. So of course I'm born. Yeah. And then when Bright, I think it was like 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years, he died. Yeah. You know, those days people didn't, and it didn't fall sick. So they say just he bakarium churo, they ate butuzi. You know,
yes, mushrooms.
Mushrooms with kalo, a sharp mbio. So yeah, at night. So chiro, yeah, himbomoro kubajire kumisia to go to the clinic. He passed on. Yeah, so I think probably
that was unfortunate.
Yeah, so Hati, now I stay with my mom, and now we have my 2 sisters, Christine and Mercy. So grew up with. So of course now they separate. Of course they had separated. So my mother was staying at a relative. So a relative had a kawaii in Ju. That was in Mabare. Mabare is part of Buringo, after Buringo.
Which district is that? Shema. Okay.
Yes, so Mabare in Shema. Yeah, so that's where, like near Mabare, Mushekure, those people. Your viewers know that.
I know.
But you're a city girl.
No, I just go past Shema, deeper into the villages.
I know the whole mountain there. Yeah, so I go to so a relative gives mommy a house. So it was a house. So it was banana. They were thatching their houses with banana fibers. No banana
for roofing.
Fibers. Yes. Do you know banana fibers?
Yes, I do. So, which Ugandan doesn't know them?
We are in .com era.
We do. Yeah, for us of those days, we know.
Yeah. So so we had so
like a hut, sort of.
It was a house when like 2 bedrooms. Konke shachi bajishakrize birere.
Okay.
Yeah. So konke njeje kabane tura.
Of course.
So because of rain, so that was where I was staying. But because we had a Samaritan who gave my mother a home, so she would. That's where she would. That's where
she raised you for a while.
Yes. So after, of course, later now my mother, of course, when our father was in Uganda, so now my sisters were their fathers.
Oh dear.
Because my mother couldn't take care of us. It was remember, she didn't have land, Yeah, so
it must have been sad.
Yeah, so they go. Of course, now they were bakaba tanjire kushoma.
Like how old?
I think maybe Mercy was like 10. And Christine was like maybe 8. So they went to their fathers. Of course, their fathers had other wives. Oh, the first.
Oh dear, I know.
So interestingly, so I stay with mom. Yeah, so when I stayed, because I was little, so now I was mom's burden.
No, not a burden.
Not like because she had no
one else to take you.
So now, dear. So Panj. So she had to. So of course she later left the other house where I was staying. So she came Mushekure. Mushekure Mabare near Buringo. That's so she rented a shop. So that's where we started. So she starts renting, and then of course yateka kaduka, a shop. It just no selling kabaragara.
Pancakes.
No.
The bananas.
The bananas, yes.
The small yellow bananas.
Yes, the small yellow. Atumanyitwe kunu ya kabaragara ntuzeta. Kuriya Buganda no Bubanda.
Yes, by this side it's yellows.
Yellows, yes. So
oh dear.
Tomatoes, those merchant. Yeah. So now I went. That's when I went school. I got school. That was around. I think that was around 19. Because I went to school in 1997.
Probably
yes,
about
when
there.
I was 5 years. So we're there. Of course, we had some relatives. Yeah. So now, my mother, she had grown up with because her mother passed on. Yeah, her mother died.
Your grandmother.
My grandmother. She died when I think she was giving birth.
Oh no.
Yeah, so she died. So my mother grew up also without a mother.
A mother.
Yeah, so she grew up with a stepmother. Yeah, so I think relationship. Those days people didn't have good relations.
Yeah, with their mother.
So I think she didn't feel comfortable. Yeah, so of course now marriage had failed. And now she can't go home now. So she had to rent. That's why she rented. Yeah, because these days when a father has children, probably there is land.
Yeah.
They can give, Joyo Mbeka. But by then, it was not the case. So when she reached, so we started she started renting. I joined school. And then when I was in P2, because I was at Buringo Primary School. So when I reached P2, I think my mother, she got stressed. She went into depression. Mbwenu yarwara. So kuyarwire, when she fell sick. So she had two brothers. That is from the same mother, same father. So that is one uncle, late Joram Katate, he passed. Yeah, that is the father of Happy Alex.
Hey, so you guys are cousins.
Oh
wow!
He's my big brother.
I know.
Yeah. So he, so then an Uncle Kayamba, he's alive. Yeah. So there were three. Then other now from
their stepmom,
our stepmother. So Kuya Ruide, when she fell sick, of course, now she was not able to continue
taking care of you.
Not even taking care of me, but she was, of course, now I was the only kid. I was at school, so they decided, the people there, they were like, no, we have to take you to your father's home. So those days, hakata homotoka. There were no cars. I remember mom akatambra vijere.
No, there were cars.
There were cars, but
okay, for a few.
That was 1999.
1999.
Yes, it was very, very long time. Anyway. So she had to go. She had to come. They had to bring her now to her father's home. Thank God her father was still alive, and also the stepmother. So there was an uncle of mine called Stephen. Stephen because now so Stephen he took her to the hospital. So bamutwara Kabuhe. So bamuraguriza. My uncle did a great work. They took care of her, and then she was revived.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, so we couldn't go back to
the shop and the other life.
They had already, so we had now to stay. Now, my uncle, Happy Alex's father, Uncle Katate, he had not built, because he was like biological brother. So now when mom came from the hospital, of course, Uncle Stephen had just married
a bride.
The bride, to cover, you can't inconvenience people, and so so now my uncle decided to, that Happy Alex's father. So we constructed
Together.
a house, just a house.
The banana fibers again.
No, ebinyansi.
The grass.
So they had to, but it was like an emergency. It's not hard to build such a house. Yeah, so now that's where my mother started staying. Yeah, because we started staying with her uncle. So twatandika kutembura orutoke. Yeah, and that's where my mom started. That's where so that's where we were staying. Yeah, and then that was so I of course now I've joined P3. Yeah, so Ninyushika, one thing I remember about that house, didn't have a door.
Wow.
So what palm trees, these palm.
Yes.
So they went and just
made like a mat like thing.
Yes, and so every morning we would wake up, every night we would carry it and we put it there, and then in the morning we just put it.
Wow.
We put it. Yeah, so of course P3, P2, I was a big boy. I would notice. Yeah, so we went. That's the life until we got a better. Yeah.
At what point now do you get better life?
It's very long.
You're saying a better door.
A better door. A real door. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after, so of course now I was in P3. Now my mother, because the distance was far from, because she was hesitant to put me nearby schools, because I think the standard was not
nice.
Yeah, so she preferred me going to Buringo, where I was, where I started from. Yeah, so I had to stay with relatives. So I stayed with my relatives, Auntie Beth and Uncle Tumuhimbise. They are from Buringo. Yeah, so I was staying with them. Yeah, and then so they helped. So I studied, and then P3 and P4. Yeah, so started P3 and P4. Well, I was bright. I was not so bright, but somehow.
Given the standard.
Yes. Yeah,
given the standard,
yeah. So after so now I'm P4. Now my mother, when we reached after P4, she moved now to, she had settled. Of course, my uncle also started, he was staying there. So she had to move so she rented also another
place to give the other one space.
Yes, and now, so she rented in a place called Kaju. So that's where now we start staying. Yeah, it was a very, of course, that shop selling, the
grocery things.
Groceries, yes. And then after, so now I had to come from the others.
Your relatives.
Yes, so I had to come and find mom. So I went to now in P5, I went to a school called Ruenjiri Primary School. So Ruenjiri Primary School, I go there in P5 and studied P6. But now I was entering adolescence.
Okay.
So I started, you're growing. I was, getting wiyai. So because my mother had a shop, I would steal from, just because I'm growing, I want to have some
money.
I remember she used to beat me because I used to steal her biscuits. So, of course, I remember in P6, of course, I started performing badly. Yeah, so in P6, there was a girl. Two girls.
No. Okay, let me hold my peace.
Two girls. You can't imagine. I remember when they were finished. They were both in P7. Me, I was in P6. So I gave them. So there was one I loved most. And another one I loved. I loved
a little bit less than the other one.
So because my mother was selling, success cards, and still 2 success cards and gave. You can't imagine. So I was giving 2. I wanted her to pass squared.
I know. You gave her 2.
2. You can't pass. So
Wanang,
anyway.
even
And
us,
the
we need
other
to be
one,
loved like that. Oh,
the other one I gave her one.
one.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know where those girls are, but they are big women now.
I would imagine.
So, yeah. So now my mother saw my performance
But
was not.
meanwhile, who is paying your school fees all through this time?
My mother. Now, those days studying was very easy.
Yes, a bit.
Now, the school fees, of course, it was UPE, Uganda Primary Education. So, paying fees, they would charge a parent, not a student, not a pupil. So, if you have 5 children, you would pay. So, because they were paying 3,000.
Where did you get that concept from? I've never heard of that. That was
Don't
charge a parent,
yes,
not a student.
But you guys started from municipal, from international window.
One day I'll tell my story.
She didn't tell us her story.
One day I have to tell my story.
So a parent, they would charge a parent, not a pupil. So now, but do you know, to get 3,000 was hard.
Over that time,
So there was a lady called Kebirunji Betes. So now Betes had 2 daughters, and now she was friends with mom. So it was like, now I'm going to give you a boy.
So she would pay for her children, but you were also counted among.
Yes. So my mother would give you bring 1,500.
But she gave more.
Yes, she had to. Yes.
Anyway, still it was
better than paying 3,000.
It was a deal, but the other also got a deal.
So the head teacher of Rwengiri those days, please, that's what. So so when they would ask me that my parent, I would not mention my mother. I would say Kebirunji Betes.
Oh dear.
How is that woman? I need to look for her.
We need to kutumila for her. Surely we need to look for her.
So so that was the mod from P5 up to P6.
P7 up to P6.
Up to P6. That was 2002 and 2003. So that's how I used to pay fees. Of course, 1,000 she would manage. And I would go desk calling.
So we do P7.
So now P7, on reaching P7, my mother realizes I was not doing well. So I had to go back to Uringo. Yes, where I started from.
Okay.
Yeah, so P7, I go there to Buringo. Now I was a big boy now. I would walk, I would move. It was
from home.
From home. I can't count the distance, but it was would go through villages and to go to that school. Yeah, of course we didn't have shoes.
Oh dear.
You also you didn't study with shoes.
Yeah, until of course later. But those first
yes. That's why I told you we're at municipal.
Oh God.
Yeah, so we now in P7.
Actually, even when you had shoes, you would not take the shoes because everyone else didn't have shoes.
Exactly.
So you just have to walk.
Yes. So you have a.
Oh God.
And so in P7, I go back to Buringo. Yeah. So Buringo, I go there. Of course, now it's not easy for a kid that has not been performing well. Yes, you've done environmental restructuring. Well, you've changed the environment, but it does not necessarily translate that they will do better. They still need time. Yeah, so I go to Buringo. Well, of course, it was exciting to reunite with my
the old
friends. Yeah, but kids had left me. These kids were bright. Very bright. You just look at, so of course I finished P7 and not much money. We're just paying, I think, Kakaga, 6,000 shillings. So I finised P7, I had 17 aggregates.
No dear, you tried.
I tried. I was a very bright boy.
People are excited.
Yeah, 17. That is second grade. So 17. Now it's time for secondary school. Now going to secondary school, now in the village, people think they used to look at going to secondary school as you must have a lot of money. Ideally, yes, because those days there are not many secondary schools. There are not really many, and it was expensive. So now my mother tells me, because she was like, I can't afford secondary school. So she was like, now there was there was a friend of ours from the same village. So this boy had gone for welding, had done welding. So welding, they were paying 200,000. So he was doing welding in Kaboe. So he was in P7 when I was in P6. So he finished early.
Yeah.
So now his parents, they took him so he went and did welding. So my mother was like, I think that's a better option. So she went. So when they told her it was 200,000, she couldn't afford.
She couldn't afford. Thank God.
Thank God.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
So we didn't go.
Yeah.
Now there was a school for construction building. So building. So there was so it was called Masheruka Technical School. I don't know whether that school is still there. In Kabusie. Those of you who know Kabusie. There is Kabusie Market, then you just continue. They had just started that technical school. So I went so my mother was go and get a vacancy. So I went because I was supposed to do, I was actually, that was 2005. I was supposed to do building and construction. So I went,
what I just can't connect is what you are now and what you're saying. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
People come from far.
Hey, they see us here.
Just look at them smiling. They are really,
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, so they get a vacancy for you.
Yes. No, I go and they give, because now it was starting, they would take everyone, and I had good marks, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they gave me a vacancy, building and construction. If that school is still there and they are good at record keeping, they would still go and find my name there. So that is building and construction. I was 12 years. I had not yet made 13. So now, I was there warming up. Now, as I was warming up to start school, because we were paying 40,000. That was normal. That was okay.
That could be affordable.
That was affordable. So now, I don't know how a certain relative who had a school in Chenjojo.
Okay, where?
In Chenjojo.
Dear, we are in Bushenyi and Chenjojo.
So I had my uncle. Now, my mother, my mother's mother, my grandmother.
Yeah.
He had, so the brother.
Okay, so this is an uncle to your mom.
Yes, so this is a grandfather. So the son, anyway, my uncle.
These are cousins to your mom.
Yes. So he had started, it's called Munanura. Zinirindi uncle.
Probably you're not watching.
I don't know. There are no mobile phones. And my mother was not, I don't know, but I really don't know how he got to know. Actually, I will ask her. Today I will ask her, how did uncle know that I had finished primary 7? So he came, he asked my mother about me, and my mother was like, we have already got a vacancy for him to go to a technical school. Little did we know that he had a school in Chenjojo. So he talked with my mom. He's like, I can take him, let him come to secondary school. Wow. And God,
see what the Lord has done, indeed.
Yes, and all of a sudden, now my mother is a very flexible woman.
Yeah. She would be rigid,
but we thank God for that, flexibility. So she accepted. And now she had a goat, which she sold, and they gave her 40,000.
Those days goats were 40.
Yeah. How much is a goat?
Now it's like 200. A good nice, yes.
Jesus.
200,000.
A goat.
Seriously, 200. A very nice one. Yeah.
So 40,000. Now that was my fee. So he gave it to me. I gave it to my uncle. We took me to Chenjojo.
So you know how to speak Rutoro?
No, I'm bad at languages. I'm so inclined to my Runyankole.
I see.
But anyway, the other side, actually, there are many Bachiga.
Oh.
And they knew. So there are many Banyankole. Because it's called Kazinga. There's a place called Kazinga. I think nowadays, I don't know whether it is still Chenjojo or Chegegwa. But, later they divided.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I go to that school. They had started. So that school, so I found other, so there were 2 classes, senior 1 and senior 2. So we were 5 in senior 1, and in senior 2 there were 6.
What a start.
So it was a school of 11 students.
Wow.
Yes. And I was, Mwana, do you know what it meant to be
in secondary
in secondary school?
Oh dear.
So for us, we didn't mind.
Yeah.
Good thing those days the schools were not many.
But now 11. So let me ask.
Yeah.
So you had like one teacher teaching more than one
Yes,
subject?
we had about 4 teachers.
I could imagine.
One teacher was teaching biology, chemistry, physics,
one teacher,
and fine art. Yes. One teacher. And another teacher was teaching geography. When we had 4 teachers.
I've not heard something.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, 4 teachers. That uncle was teaching us agriculture and I think commerce. And another one was teaching us history, geography, English.
Wow.
So many things. Yeah, 4 teachers. Yeah. So we started. Now after term 2, after term 1, that is senior 1, term 1. Now students didn't return.
All of them?
Yes. So there was another relative, a sister to that uncle of mine. So he was in a distance. The place is called Kabaraba, still in Chenjojo. So there was a school called St. Lawrence Vocational that had just started. So for it now, it had from senior 1 up to senior 3. So it had about 60 students. So I joined that school. So I joined for term 2. So after those terms, my uncle was like, I think I've supported you enough. Because he didn't have money, the school was not running. He's like, please, what you do, you go back to your home. Go to your mother, and then we see what she can do. Yeah, so I come home to Shema. Now, because my mother, now it's like, I don't know what had happened. Like the shop was no longer bringing money. So what she would do, she would dig. She would go to Buhweju. Now you see there, those days it was Bushenyi, Greater Bushenyi. So, but now Buhweju is a district of its own. Shema is also. So she would move from Shema to Buhweju, because now that Uncle Daddy Happy Alex's father was had another wife, not Happy Alex's mom. Yeah, so that auntie was the one who gave my mother land to dig. So that's where she would, because she wanted to dig so that she can get money to support. So I came back term 2. I'd finished senior 1 term 2. Now, so that's where she was staying. I reached where we were, the
usual place you knew.
She was not there. And then, so, man, it's, there are no phones.
Yeah. So people had to tell you now.
Yes.
Okay, phones were there, but owned by
there were Ericsson phones.
Yeah, and by very few people.
Phones. Very few. They were very rich people.
Yes. Yeah.
So we had now. So now my mother, when my mother came, of course, I told her, and then she thought the end, like, because she didn't want to see me home seated. So where in Buhweju, where she was digging, there was a man called Chakabari. So Chakabari was a bicycle mechanic. So now my mother wanted me to gain a skill. So he was like, now, instead of you sitting home, we had a role model in our village who was repairing bicycles, and he had bought plots of land. I was like, now, if Amon was able to, through bicycle repairing, he's making whatever, I was encouraged. I was like, let me go and study mechanics. I was going to be a bicycle mechanical engineer.
Yes, please.
Jesus Christ. So we went. So my mother, so she talked to Chakabali. Chakabali agreed. He was like, So my mother had 10,000, which she wanted to pay as initial fees. Now, where she was staying, that auntie, uncle. That,
yeah, Happy Alex's other mom.
Other mom.
Yeah.
So she told my mom, she was like, so like all of a sudden God always prepared like people, like mysteriously. So that lady was like, there is a school that has just started in Nyakambu. You before you go to Chakabali, you first try it out. When my mother has the highest degree of flexibility, so she changed. So we went. It's like, let's go. We went.
I think deep down in her heart, she really wanted you to go through secondary.
Yes.
But it's something she felt she could not afford.
Exactly.
So whenever there was a little push, a little encouragement, she would take it.
So we had our 10K. So
meanwhile,
we went to, it was called Trust High School in Nyakambu. It was about like 6 kilometers from Chanka and Abuheju where we were staying.
And you walked there?
Yes, no taxis, no cars. Where would you even get money for taxi or bicycle? And where there are mountains, you just. So I went. So we ask. So they give us, because these were schools that were starting. I didn't even have a report because from the school where I was studying from, I had not picked a report because I had not paid fees. Yes, so I'd just so
there was no proof that you've actually studied the other terms.
So this man had faith. Yes, let me take on this boy.
Okay.
He didn't even ask for P7 results.
But probably it was also starting, so they also wanted people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that school had up to senior 3. So I joined. Now, remember, I had left books in Shema, my mother, because the deal was coming to go to repair bicycles. The bicycles. Yeah. So why are you taking books of secondary?
Oh, good.
So my mother went. She got books, my notes, and she came back and she phoned me, and then I started studying. So of course we studied. After term 1, I was the best in my class.
Oh, thank God.
Yes. So that is senior
1 third term.
Senior 1 third term. Senior 1 term. Senior 1
third term.
Now, after senior 1 third term, there was, Erioda Tumuhimbise.
Yes, I do.
You know Ikobi.
Yes.
So that guy, they would give scholarships for needy students. So somehow mom got an idea that they were going to give scholarships. So she told, for you to be given a scholarship, they had specific schools that you'd go and do interviews. When you pass it, they give you. Yeah. So I went to Shema High School. Shema High School, it's now, is it now Shema Girls or it's different?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So Shema High School, where I went, I did interviews, I got 50 in English and 60 in math.
That was good.
Yeah, and I passed an interview. The pass mark was 50.
Wow.
So now I came with, that proof. So now when it was a day of
reporting?
No, not reporting, of shortlisting, because it was not only me who was needing the village. There was another orphan. Now the other one was worse than me. The other one was a total orphan. Now for me, I had my parents.
You had yes.
Both parents, yes.
Yeah.
But they were poor. Now, for you, if you have 2 poor people that have parents and an orphan, who would you take? An
orphan could have people that are taking care of him.
An orphan had land.
You see? So it depends also.
So me, I was more... Anyway, so now villagers, they are Chengando, they thought the right thing is to give an orphan, because me, I was not. Well, my father was in Buganda. It was like, how sure are we that this boy, the father will not come and take care of him? So the whole village, except my grandfather's home, that to say
your own home.
They were like, no, this boy, let's support this boy. But people were like, no, this is an orphan, and their reason was, valid. Yeah. So now, the deal that was expecting it had crumbled. So my mother, so now there was a school called Roadside High School. When you're going to Cabo, as you're going home, there is Cabo, as you're going from Itendero, in a corner there, as you're going to Kagango, there is a school called Roadside. we are the pioneers of that. It's we.
If you've never been a pioneer, you've been pioneering from the start.
The grace. That's why.
Of starting.
The grace of starting is on me. I am a very serious pioneer.
Oh dear Lord.
So I don't know how my mother got to know of that school. So now we go there. So she goes and she is given a vacancy. I joined senior 2 when the other deal had crumbled. Yeah, so now I was staying with there are relatives who are in Itendero. They were relatives from my uncle from my father's side. Yeah, so I was staying with them. Yeah, and so I studied. So I went there. We're paying. Now, as I went there, yeah, that was 2006. I studied. I enjoyed roadside. Studied. Now that was the school. Now these are 4 schools.
Yeah.
So I studied senior 2, and I finished senior 2. But in senior 2, my mother could not afford, because the shop, she would dig. I didn't tell you. She would dig in those where she was digging. She would dig and she would harvest nothing. She would just get like, you've planted like 10 cups. You just get like 5. Less
than even what you've planted.
Profitless hard work.
Oh dear.
So now there was a friend, a village mate. So he told my mother, he was like, someone wants a mate. He has a home, Mushanga. He has a home. That lady is the owner of Premier Hotel Kawa. I don't know whether that hotel is still there. So it's near Charmanya. So that lady, she wanted someone, a mate, to stay at home and take care of the house and also plant, take care of the
place.
The place. My mother was like, Hati, now I'm doing this shop, nothing is working. I need fees for my son. So every month they would be giving her 30,000. Which was a fair deal. 30,000, there is food, there is whatever, so she went. The good thing, she was staying alone. So she's there. Now that's where she would get money to pay for my school fees.
Wow.
In senior 2. Now, she's a maid, and now I go to senior 3. Yeah, senior 2. Now
I'm just thinking at my life now at senior 3, and I'm picturing my mom working as a maid. And maybe if boys are different from girls, but girls at that point, my friend, your head will be very down low.
Yeah,
like you don't even want to talk about anything. So if people have not believed in a God, I know that that this story is just midway, but given what I know now and the story that I'm hearing now, if someone has not believed in God, today is the day to start believing, because life can change. It really can change. And so I would like to end this part here and wish you well, and hope that you will join us for second part and see where this gentleman is now from where we have left today. So please, thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe, share, comment, and let's catch up next week for part 2.